wait to see what then happens. But joining me now is Adib Saani. He's a security analyst helping us to understand what's happening up north. Saani, very tragic incidents there. The pictures that we have indicates that it's not only the military officers that have been attacked. What is happening as well is that civilians are also injured in the process. Help us understand what's happening in the Bawku area.
Well, I'm coming from Tamale. I was in the north over the weekend. I came yesterday. This morning, I had the opportunity to brief some diplomats, and one of the topics that came up for discussion is the Bawku issue. We currently have well over 300 unresolved chieftaincy crises all across the length and breadth of the country. Most of the crises is gone to sleep, but it doesn't mean it's been resolved. At any time, with a little trigger, it is able to cause a lot of mayhem. However, one consistent crisis that we've had to contend with that has been bloodied all the way through has been the Bawku issue, which many governments, both past and present, have largely been unable to address. And the problem is our seeming over-reliance on a militarized strategy to deal with the issue. Fine. There's absolutely nothing intrinsically wrong with deploying military personnel because it seeks to only maintain interim peace. However, if you fail to deal with the fundamentals, trust me, you would have this becoming more like a cycle and repeating itself. But what I am most disturbed about is the changing, the dynamics with respect to the conflict. Now, what we are very used to is someone coming into the middle of town and from nowhere shooting another person and vanishing. But if we are not careful, now they are going to start attacking police and military personnel. And that, I must say, is disturbing. And we need to really put the proper mechanisms on the ground beyond just the deployments, beyond just the meters to deal with this issue. And what I am also disturbed about is the asymmetrical nature of the whole conflict. This is not two armies coming head on facing each other and one winning and one losing. No, it is a shoot and run, hide and seek kind of tactic. That is why the Nigerian government has for years been unable to defeat Boko Haram because they shoot and they run and they are nowhere to be found. And that is exactly what is happening. I have friends in the security services in that area. Their former commander, the military commander in Bawku, is a personal friend. And they tell me that, look, you would hear gunfire at one area. By the time you get there, it's all quiet as if nothing happened. Then you hear it elsewhere. By the time you get there, so it's like a hide and seek situation, which I must say.
If ammunitions are involved in the process, obviously government would have to adopt that military strategy of checking and de-escalating the situation. Is it your suggestion that these approaches have not worked in the past and are not even working now as we speak?
Okay, so I'm going to say this and quote me anywhere. There is nothing like a military solution to anything in any part of the world, including Ghana. I am not discounting the importance of having military personnel on the ground to perhaps stop the belligerents. However, it's not sustainable. We need to deal with the fundamental issues. What are the fundamental issues?
Help us understand the fundamentals you're talking about. For some time now, the approach that has been adopted appears to have worked. We've not seen an escalation of the situation until recently. So if you're questioning that military approach, what then is the best solution to this?
Well, point of correction, it has never worked. It has never worked, absolutely not. And for your information, and off camera, I challenge you to speak with people on the ground and they will tell you the information about the number of deaths we are receiving is very underestimated. Trust me, a lot more people have died as a result. So nothing has worked. I mean, no military posture has worked in the past nor in the present, okay? So I think that one of the most important things we have to look at is the proliferation of small arms and light weapons. The only reference point we have as at now is the 2014 Kofi Annan International Peacekeeping and Training Center baseline report that indicated there are well over 2 million guns in the system. According to the Small Arms Commission, as at the close of 2020, out of the 1.25 million Ghanaians who have their weapons registered, only about 40,000 re-registered. So you can imagine, 8 years down the line, since the Kofi Annan baseline survey, how many more weapons we would have had in the system, especially stemming from the influx in Libya, finding its way through the Sahel region into sub-Saharan Africa. We have friends we work closely with. We've sat in for courses with. One of them is a Nigerian police officer, and he tells me that almost every single day, they impound trucks filled with guns headed towards sub-Saharan Africa. So we really need to look at it, particularly also the local gun manufacturing industry, because without these guns, these people would not have the motivation to go into the center of town to shoot people. Secondly, we need to be very careful about the terrorism threat this might pose to us. Remember, we have Moshis, for example, in Ghana. We have them in Burkina Faso. So if they feel that their comrades are in distress in Ghana, they might seek reinforcement from Burkina Faso into Ghana, and that might also pose a different level of existential threat to the security of the state. Then we also have to look at the human insecurities, the lack of jobs, the economic, hardship that pushes young people into thinking that the only way out is violence. So by dealing with these fundamentals, including government assertiveness into letting us all know who is the chief, who is not the chief, right, I think would largely help. But I mean, a bit of politics is also what is, messing the whole issue up.
These are the fundamentals you talk about. In fact, there's one more issue I wanted your take on. We need to indicate to our viewers as well that we understand there's a regional security meeting happening as we speak. The regional minister would not make any comments until that meeting is done. Here on the Joy News channel, we'll bring you some updates as in when we have fallouts from that meeting for you. You'd hear it here first. But Adib, also your take on what's happening up north. This may be just within Bawku itself. There may be implications as well for the northern zone as well. We've had attacks in some chief's palace just a couple of weeks ago, and quite a lot of disturbances are happening in this very region that we're focusing on. What is the best strategy to de-escalate right now?
Well, in Tamale, I had the opportunity to speak with some stakeholders, including some chiefs. I was there with Tamale Central MP Murtala Mohammed, and of course the Northern Regional Minister. We had, quite a hearty discussion about the myriad of insecurity issues they have to contend with in the region. A lot of it has to do with the cycle of impunity. You can imagine Northern Electricity Company officials going to disconnect someone, and the only way out for him is to pick a machete and chase one of the officers, and even ended up capturing him and getting him badly hurt in that process. Certainly it cannot be allowed to happen. So if we ensure that wrongdoers are arrested, are dealt with rigorously according to the dictates of the law, it should send a clear signal to others who perhaps might be disillusioned into thinking that we live in a banana republic. Going forward I guess there's the need for stakeholders to be engaged, especially the chiefs, who the people listen to a very large extent, to get the people to understand that violence is not the only way out. And I had the opportunity to address quite a number of people in the area, and I made them know that when people behave, and we say that people don't say good things about the North, okay, and that's every news about the North is usually bad news. But if we don't create the bad content, I'm not sure people would report it. So
Adib, we don't have all of the time, but just touch on the professionalism of the security men that will be deployed into the area. Just as we heard from the assembly member for that community, they seem to have concerns about how some military personnel are attaching sentiments to the deployment. Just do that for us briefly. Help us understand what the implications are and how we need to avert this.
Okay, sometimes I think they become frustrated. Okay, when you hear gunshots here, they get there, nothing happens, and you go another place. I think as a result of that frustration, they are sometimes tempted to act overboard, but of course that cannot be allowed to happen. Secondly, officers should not get too attached to the area. That is why it's imperative that periodically we move them and bring new people so they don't make friends and perhaps get compromised as a result. And there's also been some allegations of some extrajudicial killings, allegations stemming from the Kusasis and the Mampritis. And I think we should ensure that there is accountability, not just within the Bawku society, but within the security services as well.
I'm grateful. Adib Saani, security analyst, giving us the implications of all that's happening up north. We'll bring you updates on the story, but we also need to bring you some updates on what's happening in court. Convener for the Fix the Country movement, Oliver Bakavomawo, has been granted bail by Tema High Court. The bail granted by Justice